Holding, no, that's what I was told.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
What did you guys come up with? You guys at Halakha Ma'aseh, the last Gemara? If you're allowed to say Gesundheit or Bashhada or the Hayim Tovim, if you're allowed to say that in Shul. But you guys came at Halakha Ma'aseh?
I don't know. I don't remember. I was there.
Huh? Afiyat said, and I know. You guys came at Halakha, you allowed to say it in Shul? So what did you guys come at Halakha though? So the truth is, while we're waiting, I guess, for everybody to come in, the truth is, I remember this when I did this Gemara the first time. I remember that Ben Ish Chai says in Parshat Vayikra, says that it's a sort to say, you know, if you're in shul, like over here, somebody who sneezes, you're not allowed to say Gesundheit or Bashada. He has different, the Chaim Tovim is, and the way they used to say it, or Afiyat, or whatever you say, whatever language you say it in. But Ben Ish Chai says very clearly, you're not supposed to say it because of kibbut of the Bet Knesset. You're not supposed to talk other words, say other things. So I was, when I did this Gemara, I remember that Ben Ish Chai, and I said, okay, but this obviously this is not the same Gemara, because what did the Gemara over here say? The Gemara over here said, what's the reason why you're not allowed to say Gesundheit and Shul? Why you're not allowed to say that according to Beit Shammai? Is because Bitul Bet Midrash, which means that if you're learning Torah and you're middle of learning Elu Devarim, and then all of a sudden you say Gesundheit, that's Bitul Torah. You're taking away from Torah learning. So you're not allowed to do that. That would sound like if it's not a time of learning, or if you're in a Bet Knesset, where it's not a place of learning. Because again, in the olden days, the way they used to have it was they used to have a Bet Knesset, a place where they used to daven, and they had a Bet Midrash, a place where they used to learn. It wasn't like the same thing. It was two different places. So that's why the Gemara says that the kedusha, the holiness of a Bet Midrash, is more. So really, it should come out according to this Gemara. It should be mutar. So Baruch Hashem, I found that Yalkut Yosef in the Miluim, I saw he says over there that you're right. According to this Gemara, Chacham Avad, you want to come out that it would be mutar. In a shul, if it's not, of course, not in the middle of davening. Let's say somebody started Baruch Shamar, you're not allowed to talk anymore after that. After you say the Baruch over there, it's a sort to talk. A lot of people don't know that. Once you say the bracha Baruch Shamar, for sure until you stabach, because it's one beracha, you're not allowed to talk. You're not allowed to say anything. You can't say, oh, you're tzedakah or can't say anything over there.
What kind of text?
Oh gosh, there was a locker over here for a reason. So the halacha is you're not allowed to talk. So for sure, if you're not allowed to talk, places where you're not allowed to talk, for sure you're not allowed to say gesundheit, whatever it is. But he comes out halacha l'maaseh according to this Gemara, because it says that it's only because of bitul Torah. Obviously, he quotes from a lot of Sfarim like Chacham Avad, Kedarko Bakodesh. He quotes from a lot of people who say according to this Gemara it should be mutar, and he comes out halacha l'maaseh that it is mutar. You're allowed to say gesundheit. So people don't know that. People say, "Oh, you gotta say." Something about Chacham Avadja in the back. I mean, Yalkut Yosef in the back comes out seemingly that it should be mutar, according to this Gemara. So I thought there were other Gemaras that talked about it that came out that it was a surah, but it seems like this was the source. So Baruch Hashem, I found that. And but if you're in the middle of learning, it sounds like you should not say it. You're in the middle of learning. You're not supposed to stop. Like the Gemara in Avot says that if a person is learning on the way and he sees a nice tree and he says, "Oh, look how beautiful this tree is." The Gemara, the Mishnah over there says, "Chaya b'nafsho," he's chaya mita. You can't stop in the middle of learning. We don't understand. When a person is in the middle of learning, nothing else could come in the way. There's nothing that happens. So that's bitul Torah. The fact is that the Taz, my Rebbe Zatzal used to quote this Taz all the time in Hilchot Talmud Torah. The Taz says that if you have two people, right, one person is walking on First Street. This is the example he always used to give because we used to live in La Brea, the holy city of La Brea, so he used to live by First Street. If one person is going down First Street to Yeshiva, and one person is going down Second Street to Yeshiva, and the second person going down sees a person, Chas v'shalom, having a heart attack, he's dying, and he goes quickly and he saves his life, right? He saves his life, he's a big mitzvah. A person who saves somebody's life is tremendous. You have no idea. You save a Jewish person's life, that's why you let be mechalel Shabbat for them, so that, because it's a person's life. He says they're both going. But the person who saved the person's life, they're both going to yeshiva, right? But one had to stop to save somebody's life. One person ended up going to yeshiva. Who has more sechar? Who has more reward? The person who went to yeshiva, says the Taz. Even though this person saved somebody's life, but the other person, he actually went to learn. So just an idea of how much our learning means. It's so much more. Of course, if the person would stop not save the person's life, and he would continue going. He said, "Oh, I have to go to yeshiva. You die. I'm going to go to yeshiva." In Shemayim, they're not going to be happy with him. But at the end of the day, the fact that he had to skip yeshiva in order to save somebody's life is, I wouldn't call it a punishment, but it's something that was lacking, and therefore he doesn't get as much reward as a person who actually ended up going to yeshiva. My Rabbi Zatzal always used to say over that ties. I saw it inside. I was like, whenever I see that ties, I think of my Rabbi. So like talking about the learning and talking about Bitul Torah, when a person is learning, at least the times that are set aside that a person has to learn, a person should make sure that they try and learn.
But doesn't he get all this schar from the person that he saved his life now? He saved his life, so all his mitzvahs, he gets a chelek.
Yes, all of that doesn't equate
Right?
to one word of Torah at the end of the day.
Unless he learns Torah.
I don't know. Talk to the ties. I didn't make this up. This is okay. Anyway, that was just an interesting point on the last Gemara. I saw that. I was like, oh, I remember that the first time I was learning this. Okay. So the Mishnah said we were holding Nun Gimel Lamed Aleph about a third up, roughly, the 2 dots. It says, "Ein mevarachim lo ala ner v'lo ala besamim shel metim." So we said in the Mishnah that if you have a candle or good smelling stuff, spices, but it was designated for a dead person, so you're not allowed to make a beracha on it. So the Gemara says, "My tama." This is usually the way the Gemara works. Is as soon as the Mishnah says something, the first thing is that we want to know why, and we want to know usually how. That's usually the way it works. So, ma'atama, what's the reason why you're not allowed to make a beracha on it? So ner, the reason why you're not allowed to make a beracha on the ner is the chavod hu davidi. The ner, when you make a beracha on a ner, we already said that it has to be a ner, it has to be a candle that you're using for light. It has to be for the purpose of light. If this candle is the purpose of this candle is for honor, to honor somebody, like in front of like kings or princes and stuff like that, where they have candles, those candles or those lights, you will not be allowed to make a beracha because it's not made for the light. It's made to honor the king or the prince or whatever it is. So over here, the reason why, if it's for the met, if it's for the dead person, it's for kavod of the met. It's a kavod of the person that passed away. So therefore, you would not be allowed to make a beracha on it. Bisamim. What about bisamim? The spices. Lavure recha hu davidi. Because the reason why they would put good smelling stuff, nowadays we have air fresheners, which does the job. But back in the days, before they had air fresheners, they used to use bisamim because the dead person would rot and he would smell terrible. My father works in Chava Kadisha. I asked somebody who worked there one time, I asked him, what's the craziest story that you guys had? He told me one time they walked into a house, Hazit, the guy, the guy was there for 2 weeks. Nobody realized he passed away. And he said when they walked in there, they couldn't even step through the door. It smelled so bad. It was horrible. They had to call an outside service, and they came in. They had masks and like gas things and whatever it is. It was terrible. Like the body had decayed already. It was gefährlich, as they say back in the language. So the body, mamish, starts to smell after even some time. It's not nowadays. They put it in a freezer, so it's able to stay for a little bit longer. But back in the days, they didn't have freezers. The body used to start decaying and it used to smell. So over here, they used to put this bisamim in there in order that the smell should go away. That was their air freshener. That's what they used to do. So therefore, since it was made to remove the bad smell and not really to give you a good smell, therefore you would not make a beracha bisamim on it. I hope I didn't give anybody nightmares, but okay. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Marav. Says Rabbi Yehuda in the name of Rab. Kol shematziyim lefana b'yom u'balayla ein mevarachim alav. So he qualifies it and he says like this: if this this dead person is somebody who in the daytime or the nighttime, regardless, they would walk in front of the met while they're walking in front of it, they would walk with a candle, right? They would walk with a light. That means this person is such a chashuv person that it doesn't make a difference if it was day or night. It was done for kavod. If it was done for kavod, you're not allowed to make a beracha for it on it. But the whole she'en matziyam lefanav ela b'layla. But if this is the type of a dead person, this individual who passed away, he's a person that they would not carry out a candle in front of him during the day. They would only carry a candle in front of him at night. So what's the reason why they're carrying the light in front of him is obviously for light, not for kavod. Therefore, Rabbi Yehuda Marav says, "Mevarachim alav." Therefore, you would be allowed to make a beracha on it because again, if it's made for the purpose of light, then you make a berach on it. Gemara says like this. Amar Rav Huna. Rav Huna says, "Bisamim shabet akisei." If you have this good smelling stuff, and some people, nowadays they have leaves, or they have scented candles that they put in the bathroom. They have all different fun stuff that they give. Anything to waste money on presents and stuff like that to give that you never use. But in the bathroom they had bisamim also. It was the same thing. So you'd be able to, if it smelled in there, so they would put these bisamim in there to make it smell good. At the end of the meal, they used to have an oil, a good smelling oil that they used to rub their hands with at the end of the meal. So the Gemara says, "Ein mevarachim alav." You don't make a beracha. Which beracha? You don't say Borei Minei Bisamim. But Rashi says, like the Gemara that you had before on Mem Gimel, but you would say a beracha of Borei Shemen Arev. Right? That was if it's a balsam type. If it's made out of balsam, the Gemara said if it's made out of farsimon, then you would make a beracha of Borei Shemen Arev. And Rashi says over here that beracha you would still make, right? If you rub your hands with it, that beracha you make. But Borei Ate Bisamim, Minei Bisamim, you would not say. That's the one that says Im Mevarachim. So it seems to hold the same way. So on these two things, since it's just made to remove the bad odor, it's made to remove the bad smell. It's not made to give off a good smell. Therefore, you would not make a berach on it. At least on the oil, you would not make Borei Minei Bisamim. So Fred, I want to ask a question. 1 second. Remember, is that to say the whole hicha delav l'recha avida? Any time, any case where it's not made for a good smell, you would not make a berach on it? Is that true? But I'll ask you a question from the Mishnah. If somebody walks into a perfume store and he smells the good smell of the perfumes, obviously it has to be something that's there. Or if somebody walks into Macy's, so we hold like on those type of colognes and perfumes, that person does not make a beracha because there's nothing there. But we're talking about a place where they sell all different types of spices and bisamim, and you walk in and you're actually smelling part of the bisamim. So the Gemara says, and if you walk into this perfume store, this good smelling place, and you smelt it, even if you're sitting there all day and you're smelling, it's gishmak, it's delicious. So even though you're smelling it all day, how many berachot do you make? You make one beracha when you walk in, and it lasts for the whole day. Let's say you walk in, you walk out, which I think the Shulchan Aruch says that that's only talking about if you had in mind not to come back in, not where you run outside to get the mail and you run back in, then it would be considered that you're still there. It's not really considered like a shina makam. This is only talking about when you left, you said chalas, have a great day, and then you're like, 1 second, that was some good smelling stuff, let me go back in there, then you would make another beracha. So if you go in, come out, mevarach al kol pam v'pam. Every time you walk back in, meaning with a new knowledge to come back in, you would make a new beracha. So the Gemara asks, so that's the halacha, right? But in this case of the perfume store, when the smell is around, it wasn't made to smell. But nonetheless, the Mishnah over here says, you still make a beracha. Once, a few times, depending on what the scenario is, but you still make a beracha. We just said before that if the smell was made not for a good smelling smell, just to remove it, you would not make a beracha. Over here, when you put it in the store, when it's in the store, it's not made to smell. The Gemara says, no, that's not true. And really, the truth is that when you have a smelling store, when you have a perfume store, when they put out this smell, they really put it out with intent for people to smell it. Why? Here's a trick of the Gemara, right? Business-wise, so that people should smell it. That people should smell it, and they go, that's delicious. I want to buy it. Because that's the way the ta'avot of us work. When a person has a ta'ava, basically the way Chazal explained it is that a person desires something, whether it's something that they see, something that they smell, and there's a lacking in their heart for that item. So when my Rebbe in Eretz Yisrael, Rabbi Klein, the way he explained it in Mesilas Yesharim, this is the way he explained it, that there's an opening in a person's heart, and it's not satiated until he gets that item. That's why it says that one of the things that motzim a person from the world is tava kinam and whatchamacallit, because these things a person can never get satiated from. So you're chasing after something, chasing, but you can't satiate yourself from it. So therefore, a person will end up dying because he can't get satiated. But over here, this is the way it works, business-wise, right? You put out a good smelling things. This is what they call testers, right? All those that know that it's a tester. Samples. People who are smart, they go in, they use up all the samples, and they say goodbye. We have no intention to buy anyway. Okay, fine. Like people, okay. But halachically, if you're allowed to do that, it's a different shadow. But okay, new. Like people who go to some women, they go to like these makeup places and they ask them to do like a trial because they want to test the makeups, but they just want the makeup on and then they leave. They don't buy anything with the intent. So whatever, you could get into a lot of issues halachically, but be it as it may, this is the point over here that a person they want to put it out to a person has smells it and they want to buy it, and that's how they entice people to come in. Okay, Tana Rabbanan, they learned. The Chachamim learned like this: if somebody was walking outside the village, outside the city, and he's walking outside, he's taking a nice exercise, he needs to go for a walk every day, so he smells a good smell outside. So the question is, do you make a beracha on that smell or not? So the Gemara says it depends. If it's outside of LA where most people are non-Jews, even in LA possibly, right? Then you would not make a beracha because we said if it belongs to a guy, if it's a bisamim, if it's a good smelling spice of a guy, you would not make a beracha. So we assume it comes from a guy, and therefore you don't make a beracha. Rabbi Yisrael, if it would be mostly Jews that live outside the city, so that means whose smell is this coming from? Most probably a yid. So therefore mivarech. Therefore a person would be allowed to make a beracha. Rabbi Yossi Omar. Rabbi Yossi says, no, even if outside the city, most people who live there are Yidden, you would still not make a beracha. Why? Because the Jewish girls, they would burn incense to witchcraft. Exactly what they did, I don't know, but they would burn it for witchcraft, which a person obviously would not be allowed to make a beracha on such a thing. So Gemara says, huh?
I've seen it done even in and I don't think they have a witchcraft purpose for it, but they use incense to drive away maybe,
spirits and stuff like that. Vavela. Could be a shalom of what is there.
Yeah. It's called what is it called? It's called esfand.
Oh,
Esfand,
wow.
Yeah, like in a pan, they would put spices, and they walk around the house putting it over everyone's head to like drive away bad.
Oh, yo.
Yeah, this is like.
Is that for witchcraft? It sounds like it's.
No,
Oh my goodness.
Maybe it's like a minhag. Maybe it's a minhag for like.
Interesting, no?
Okay, you should be not.
Huh?
That's Rastrian. What is that?
Is it Exastrian roots? That's interesting. It's not witchcraft. I think it's more like
Michael, when did you start over here? This is Berachot, not a Zara.
Now we gotta ask the question. Yeah.
I don't know. So like all these things you have to be careful of. Putting eggs under the car the first time, or like all these things after whatever it is. So like you have to be careful of these things. The Taki Agoyim, if it's a way of a guy, you're not allowed to do it anymore. Like they used to have the Vilna Gaon says, we were doing the sugya years ago, talks about a tree. They used to have a tree in the Beit Knesset. They used to put it for beauty. They used to put it in the shul. But once the Goyim started using it for their holiday, it became something disgusting for us, and we don't put trees in the shul. So things that the Goyim took on, you have to be careful of. Not Pascha, I would say you have to ask. It's all these things, these superstitions and stuff like that. There's a big sugya in Avodah Zarah. I don't know if you're doing Avodah Zarah next. I think you might be doing Chagiga.
I think
so. But not to spoiler alert, but but in Avodah Zarah, the Gemara does talk about these things, and you have to be careful. One of the sugyas I did with the Rav when I first started learning with them. But okay.
So wait, can we say a blessing on the spices of goyim?
No.
And not at all.
That the mission says clearly.
Because
Avodah
the doubt
Zarah,
whether or not they're idolaters, or is it because they're just not Jews and that's it?
I guess so. I mean, I would assume the first reason because it's Avodah Zarah. It's usually when they do these things for Avodah Zarah. You're asking nowadays if it's minhag avatim b'yadim.
Like a guy in Venice Beach burning incense, like. Okay, anyways, that's not good.
It's not good.
That's your personal Orthodox rabbi. I don't know what you're doing at Venice Beach. I'm just kidding. You're biking, I know.
Good point, yeah. Walking by.
Biking by.
Practicing blindfold walking.
Huh?
Someone does anytime.
All right. So anyway, he holds that even so, if it's outside, it doesn't matter. Even if mainly you have Jews that live there, still you will not make a beracha because we assume the girls are burning it to witchcraft, something to do with witchcraft, and therefore you would not be allowed to make a beracha on it. So the Gemara says, 1 second, how many girls are sitting there burning for witchcraft? And you're telling me all the Jews outside the city, they're all burning it for witchcraft? You have a few girls that are doing it. You're going to say that it's asur, you're going to assume everybody's doing it? So Gemara says, no, the reason is because you have a few people doing it for kishur, for witchcraft. You have some people that are doing it to make their clothing smell good. What they used to do, I don't know if he explained, but you guys had this before. They used to put some type of good smelling scent in the fire, and they used to put the clothing on top, and they used to have the smell go into the clothing. It was called mugmar. That's one of the things that they used to do. So, but again, if you're doing it for that, then the point of the smell is not for the good smell. You will not make a beracha on that, because the point of the smell wasn't to make a good smell, it was just to put a smell into the clothing. You will not be allowed to make a beracha. So since you have some people that do it for witchcraft, some people that do it to make their clothes smell good, it comes out that most people are doing it not for a good smell. Therefore, even if most people there are Jews, since majority of the Jews are doing it not for a smelling purpose, therefore you will not make a beracha. Therefore, you don't make a beracha. Amar Reb Chia bar Abba, Amar Reb Yochanan. Reb Chia said, the son of Abba, said in the name of Reb Yochanan, Hamehalech be'arvei Shabbatot b'Tiveria. Erev Shabbat, if you're walking in Tiveria, or Uvemote Shabbatot b'Tzipori, or else on Mote Shabbat, if you're walking in the city called Tzipori, and over there you smell some good smells in the mevarech. Over there you will not make a beracha. Why? Over there the chazaka is in Tiveria on Erev Shabbat they used to burn smell in order to put it into their clothing. And in Tzipori, the city of Tzipori, they used to do that on Motzei Shabbat. So therefore, if you go there on those times, you know that this city is for sure doing it most likely for the purpose of making their clothing smell good, and therefore you would not make a beracha. The Gemara ends off, Tanu Rabbanan, Hayamahalech Beshuk Shel Avodah Zarah. Somebody, Baminan, has to walk through a marketplace where they have Avodah Zarah. So, of course, they have good smelling stuff. Even nowadays, if you walk by some of these Avodah Zarah places, some of them are real Avodah Zarah, some of them are all fake. But in India, for sure, my parents used to tell me how they used to have this. So if you have an Avodah Zarah, real Avodah Zarah, and they have good smelling stuff to entice people to come in, like nowadays the stores, they have incense that are burning outside so that people are attracted, they come in, they smell it. But if somebody goes and he walks by and he goes, delicious. The Gemara says, that's a sinner. A person who wants to enjoy it is called a sinner, right? You're supposed to, when it comes to anything to do with Avodah Zarah, a person is supposed to feel, like Victor Miller says multiple times, a person is supposed to think this is a pile of manure from pigs that is being wallowed in, and that is the smell of anything that has to do with Avodah Zarah. That's the way a person should think of it. A person should look at it. A person would never want to go roll in the mud with, or whatever else is in the mud with pigs. But if a person who wants to enjoy anything to do with Avodah Zarah, that person has to look at it as if it's the same thing. So over here, if a person wants to have any enjoyment from Avodah Zarah, you want to smell it, and you smell, this is delicious smell. So no good. Don't do that. The Gemara says it's a choteh, it's a sinner. Okay. The Gemara says like this. This is very applicable, but the Mishnah said that when you want to make a beracha on a ner, on a candle, so you can only make a beracha when you have some type of an enjoyment. So you can only make a beracha on the candle when you have enjoyment from the candle. Amar Yehuda says in the name of Rav, mamish. It doesn't mean that you actually have to have enough from it. You have to have enjoyment from it. Anybody who's standing in close proximity, if you're standing close by and you're able to use that light, so therefore, even if you're very far from it, then you would be allowed to make a beracha. So where is this applicable? Don't paskin yet, right? But let's say you're in shul, so you're doing havdalah. Everybody runs up. Everybody comes running to the front. Oh, we have to look. According to this Gemara, if you're close by and you can have enjoyment, so even if you're standing all the way back here, As long as you're able to see it, it should be fine. You should be able to make a beracha on it. You have no problem.
Even if the lights are on, because
Even if the lights are on, because you could have enjoyment, right? Again, don't pass it yet. We just started the Gemara. I'm just pointing out that would be where it would be applicable. You see, if everybody's so locked on it, everybody goes, they want to go as close as possible to try and get enjoyment. We'll see if that actually plays out or not. This is where the roots are. So if somebody asks you a question, you say, "Oh, that's a Gemara in Gimel Amud Beis in Berachot. We did that Gemara," and then you can tell them all the Rishonim on it also. Okay, fine. Rashi said the same thing, that that if you're far enough, even if you're far away, you could still make a berachah on it, no problem. As long as close by, you're able to have enjoyment. So one says, really, is that true? Native, I'll ask you a question from a Mishnah. Right? If you had a candle, a ner, that was hidden in somebody's lap, or else in a lamp, a clear lamp, or you saw the fire, but you didn't use the light, or you used the light, but you did not see the fire. So you're using the light, but you can't see the fire. You cannot make a beracha. You have to have both. You have to use it, and you have to see the fire. So Gemara says like this. It explains it. It makes sense. The case of mishtamish l'ora v'lora shall have it. The case where you can use the fire, you can use the light, but you don't see the fire. What's the case? How do you have such a case? So the Gemara says mishkachala dekama bekeren zavid. Let's say you're on a corner. So let's say the light is over here, and you're standing over here. So you're not going to be able to see the candle. You're not going to be able to see the fire, but the light spreads out. You're able to see the light. You're able to enjoy the light. Very pashut. You have a case of where you can see the fire. You can use the light, but you don't see the fire. But the opposite case of where you see the fire, but you're not able to use the light, what would be a case? So the Gemara says, the Gemara wants to say, must that be talking about lav de merechaka? That must be talking about where you're far away from the fire. So therefore, you see the fire all the way at the bima, but you can't have any enjoyment from it. You're too far from it. And still the Mishnah says over here, in a mevarech, you cannot make a beracha, right? Because you need both conditions. You need to be able to see it, and you need to be able to enjoy it. Not like Rabbi Yehuda Amarav and not like Rav Ashi. A question on both of them that says, even if you're far away, you can still make a beracha as long as you can have a no when you're close to it. So the Gemara says, "Lo, don't learn the Mishnah like that." It's talking about going to Amya v'Azla, which means that the fire is gradually, it's dimming down, it's dying down, and therefore, over there is where you can't really enjoy it, and therefore you cannot make a beracha. But according to them, if you're far away and it's a gezunta, nice, great light, you would be able to make a beracha. The Gemara says like this: Tana Rabbanan. We learned gachalim lochashot. If you have coals that are slowly burning, mevarechim aleihem. You could make a beracha borim mera'esh on these slow burning coals. Umemot, but if they're dimming down, ein mevarechim aleihem. Now, almost sounds like the same thing. So the Gemara asked the question: Hechi dami lochashot. What is it? How is it? What's the case of where we said where it's burning slowly? What would that mean? So Rav Chisda says like this: that kol sheilu machnis letocho kisam v'doleket mela. If let's say these coals or this fire that's burning down, if you're able to take a twig and you stick it in and it catches on fire, that's called where it's burning slowly. But the fire is really there. You don't need to fan this fire in order for it to get going. It's still there. The fire is actually still there. But Umamot is talking about where even if you stick in a twig, like some of them at the end of the barbecue, there's nothing left. You have to sit, you have to fan it in order for some fire to pop up. If you stick a twig in there, nothing's going to happen. You might put the fire out. So that would not be allowed to make a beracha. But if the fire is still there, where you can stick in a twig, you can stick in a piece of wood and it catches fire, that means there's still fire over there. Over there, you can make a beracha. So now the Gemara wants to know technically, ibayluhu amamot or umamot. Amamot. For those that are professional, is it with an olive or is it with an ayin? Which one is it? What's the text? So the Gemara says, wants to bring a raya, Tashima, come here, I'll teach you. Damar B'chis Damar Avdimi, the Pasuk says, Arazim lo amamu began elokim. That the cedar trees did not dim down, and over there it has it within ayin. So it must be that the Gersa over here, the correct text is within ayin. So that's all according to Rav Yehuda Marav and Rav Ashi. This is what I told you, don't paskin yet. Rava Amar, Rava says, yeah, too mamash. You actually have to enjoy the fire. You have to have some benefit from the fire. That is why everybody runs up to be able to see, to tell the difference, because you have to actually have enjoyment from the fire. If you don't have enjoyment, according to Rava, you will not be allowed to make a beracha. Right? This is the way the Shulchan Aruch paskins as well. The Shulchan Aruch also is posted like that if you don't have enjoyment, then you will not be allowed to make a beracha on it. That became the way. That's why everybody runs up. So don't yell at anybody that runs up to go see the difference. You shouldn't run up. You go nicely. You go beforehand, so that you're able to see it. Fine.
It's not a question of potential, like even from a distance, if there was a small fire and the room's lights were turned out, you benefit by being able to be around the pool.
Yeah. So then fine. That would be if you're not that you could benefit. You have to actually benefit.
You have to actually.
So that means if it's a small light and it's a pitch black, so it says a little bit of light chases away a lot of darkness, right? So over there, sometimes if the lights are all off, then yeah, you would. Obviously, it depends on the situation. Either you're having benefit, or you're not having benefit. It doesn't matter how far you are. Sometimes they have the ginormous. I don't know if you've been to the candle factory in Flat. Everybody's been there. See these massive candles. You know what I'm talking about? Like they made all these things. So if you have that in a room like this, yeah, it would be like almost daytime. Vikama. The Gemara says how much benefit do you have to have? So Amar Ula says Kadesh Yaakov ben Ister lepundion. There are two different types of coins in the time of the Gemara. Two different. So if you can tell the difference between these two coins, that's enough benefit that you would be allowed to make a beracha. Chizkiya Amar. Chizkiya says Kadesh Yaakov ben Meluzma shel Tiveria lemeluzma shel Tzipori. Right? If this certain type of a weight in Tiveria, or else a different type of a weight in Tzipora, if you're able to tell the difference between these two weights, then that would also be enough of a benefit that you would be allowed to make a beracha. So my Rebbe, it's on the tape. He said that that our minhag is that we don't look at the difference between coins and stuff like that. What do? We do the difference between your basar and your nail, right? That's what you're supposed to look at. Supposed to look at the difference between that's the benefit that we have, that you see the difference, that you're able to tell the difference between your flesh and your nail, and that's what you make a beracha on. Why? He explained, I don't know if he brought from anybody, but he explained that Adam Arishon, whatever this means, I don't know what this means, but we'll say the words just to be Yotzazan saying the words. Adam Arishon didn't have a body like ours. He wasn't flesh, and when he was created in some type of a skin, some type of a nail form. Whatever that means, I don't know what that means, but he was made in some type of a nail, which obviously, and he's shown through the nail some type of a light. Obviously, when the Chazal tell us that the angels, when the Malachim saw Adam, they wanted to say Shira to him, they wanted to sing praises to him. Obviously, it's not the same flesh and blood that we have nowadays. Obviously, it was something totally different. When he's shown, he looked like something of a holy spirit, of something very holy, that the Malachim were about to make a mistake and they were going to sing praises to this man. So he was made he was made out of some type of a material of a nail. After he sinned, after he ate from the Itzadat, so he got this buster type of a thing, and he felt very bad. He felt terrible. And Motzei Shabbat, when he saw his nails, he felt a little bit better. He says, there's some resemblance or remembrance of what I used to be, so he felt a little better. So since anyway on Motzei Shabbat, the reason why we do Bar Me'esh is because that's when the fire was created, right? That's when Adam Arishon and the world became, that's why we say, right? We say Bar Me'esh on Motzei Shabbat because Adam Arishon, after he sinned, it was right before Shabbat, and it started getting darker. He's like, oh no, this is terrible. This is the end of the world. And Motzei Shabbat, what he did was he hit two flintstones or two rocks together, and he created a fire, and that's what he says, Bar Me'esh, right? That's why we have the minhag nowadays on Motzei Shabbat to say Bar Me'esh and remember into that. So Adam Arishon, when he saw the difference, that made him feel better. So therefore, that's why we have the minhag nowadays to look at the difference between the flesh and the nail. So the Gemara says, just to finish off, Rabbi Yehuda mevarech Adabe Ada Dailam. Rav Yehuda, he would make a beracha on the fire of the house of Ada Daliam, and that was very, very far from his house. But still, he held like the first Mandamim that said that even if it's far away, it doesn't make a difference, as long as whoever's close by could have an enjoyment from it. So therefore, even if you're very far away, you can also have enjoyment. And therefore, you can be able to make a beracha, even if you're not necessarily having any enjoyment. Rava Mevarech Adabe Guria Bar Hamam, that is a Rabba, Girsa of Rabba or Rava. Rashban in the back says Rabba, but okay, whatever the Girsa is, he would make a bracha on Guria Bar Hamam, which was close by, right? Because he held, like what we said, the second opinion that if you don't have any enjoyment from it, then you cannot say a beracha. So therefore, he would say it only to a candle that was close to him. And Abaya Mevarech Adabe Bar Avua, which was very far. That according to Abaya, he held no, you can make it even if it's far away, as long as whoever's close by can have enjoyment. So that's the way he held. So the Gemara says, Amar of Zera or Amar of Yehuda Marav, Ein machzirim ala or keder shechozrim ala mitzvot. On you don't have to run after a candle. Let's say Moshe Shabbat comes, and a person didn't plan ahead, and he went on vacation. I don't know why. But okay, he asked his Rav as well. Says it's okay. It's time for vacation, and he packed everything. He goes, oh no, there's no candle. Right? Do you have to go run to the nearest gas station to find a candle? This Gemara says no. You don't have to run after it. If you have it, go ahead. You say a berach on it. You don't have it, you don't need to run out of it after it, and that's the way the Shulchan Aruch paskins as well. That a person doesn't have to run after a candle. If you forgot to pack it, or if you don't have it, if it's not lighting, if you don't have it, you don't have it. You don't have to run after it. Amar Reb Zera Mirish Havi Mehadrana. Reb Zera said in the beginning, when I was younger, I used to run after the candle. Even if we didn't have one right now, I used to run around the city trying to find a candle because I wanted to make Havdalah on the candle. Since I heard what Rabbi Yehuda Marav says, that you don't need to run after the candle, I also did stop running after the candle. If I had it, I would make a beracha. If I didn't have it, I wouldn't make a beracha. I wouldn't go running after it. And that's the way halacha is posek like that. That if it's nearby, you make a beracha. If it's not nearby, you don't have to run after it.